All right, I'm gonna jump straight into the content because I'm supposed to be expecting a phone call from my boys here before they go to gymnastics. So we're gonna jump straight into this. So real quick, Mr. Huber had put this up. This was yesterday, responding to Stephen Aroff. Remember, we covered this in our video, our previous video. It says, after what they put us through, I share your frustrations. We were conspiracy theorists betrayed and they're prisoners. Me, literally, for 4 years. I have legal constraints on timing, but here you go. In pertinent part, hashtag crypto Judas and crooked elbow Joe say I wasn't essential and I don't. So pretty much he's talking about the piece of paper that was put in Joe Lubin's pocket, right? So Mr. Huber says Jeffrey Alberts, who put a paper in Lubin's pocket, worked with Mark Berger, who charged Ripple and now works with Bill Hinman. So we're talking about these group of peoples in positions of power obviously having a coordinated effort to suppress and sue Ripple. Like, it's all being connected further. So that's what he's showing here. He says, who charged Ripple and now works with Bill Hinman at the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office Securities and Commodities Fraud Task Force. They even work together on the same famous Bitcoin fraud cases. So then he puts up these screenshots, right? So you can go through and check out the screenshots, but I'm going to continue here because Cowboy Crypto, I put this up, says just 4 months after the SEC filed suit against Ripple, Mark Berger leaves his acting enforcement director job and heads to Simpson Thacher. No big deal. He is now global co-head of Simpson Thacher's government and international investigation and is ex-partner at Ropes and Gray. Prior to joining the SEC, Mark Berger was the global co-head of Ropes and Gray LLP Securities and Enforcement Practice. Dahlia Blass took a job as partner at Sullivan Cromwell on 4/6/2023, where Jay Clayton is senior policy advisor. The same Dahlia Blass who previously worked for Shearman and Sterling, Hinman's old law firm, the SEC, BlackRock, and Ropes and Gray, where she, quote, was deeply involved with numerous SEC rulemakings. Her husband, David Blass, was standing next to Bill Hinman at the Alibaba IPO and is ex-CEO assistant director and now partner at Bill Hinman Simpson Thacher with the eyes. And then he puts up all these screenshots where you can come and check it in. So here's the thing. There's all connections. Remember, we talked about hashtag ETHgate connection to CCP. You have, the Wang Chain component of it. You have Consensus, Joseph Lubin. I mean, just this massive web, and the dots keep continuing to be connected. This is crazy, man. Shout out Cowboy Crypto. Shout out Stefan Huber and Stephen Narioff and the rest of the slews out there that have been really diving deep. And I'm sure more is going to unsurface, especially now that we got the whistleblower from hashtag ETHgate, the inside man in a sense, with JD and Stephen Narioff. So we'll see what's up, man. This is crazy. We're going to start transitioning into today's hearing. Crypto Loss had put this up, and DAI is responding to it. Says the day that these congressmen accept intellectually that Gary is specifically dispatched by political operatives to be a sociopathic regulator that ignores all common sense, reasons, and honesty that Americans would expect from a regulator that loves this country will be the day they realize that they must fight him with the same ruthlessness that you would an enemy of the state with the intent of destroying this country. Right? We talked about all their connections, and we all see where it's headed. Hashtag ETHgate has, literally direct, indirect ties to CCP and the parties and members out there. So the more you look into it, the more you go, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. It goes deeper than the SEC, and we've been uncovering that. But I'm not going to get into all the politics and all that stuff and saying certain people's names and 3-letter agencies outside of the SEC. But yeah, it's crazy. But we're going to get into this hearing here and kind of listen in a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gensler, good morning. I worry that the term investment contract has become so infinitely malleable and manipulable that it means whatever you unilaterally thinks it ought to mean, right? I worry that when it comes to crypto, your interpretation of the term investment contract has no limiting principle and therefore could invite arbitrary and capricious enforcement action. So I want to take a few minutes to explore the concept of investment contract in greater depth. And I want to start with an obvious definitional question. We know that an investment contract requires an investment. Does an investment contract require a contract?
Something about this definition, I will quote Thurgood Marshall, Congress painted with a broad brush. And when Marshall said that, he was writing the law of the land. So we follow this Howey test and how not just Marshall, but other courts interpreted it. And it has a four-part four components.
Again, I did not go to MIT, but in the Bronx, if I ask whether an investment contract includes a contract, the answer is typically yes or no. So,
Well, actually, sir, under the Supreme Court law of the land, they do not write that in. They say it's an investment of money in a common enterprise, and you're anticipating profits based on the efforts of others. So I took an oath to follow the law of the land, and that's the Supreme Court law of the land.
so in Howey, the Supreme Court refers to an investment contract as a contract, scheme, or transaction. That was the terminology that I saw in the case. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the Supreme Court's jurisprudence that suggests that a scheme or transaction means the absence of a contract. And so by way of illustration, consider the landmark case of SEC versus Howey. In the Howey case, there was not a single contract, but there were two contracts. A land sales contract with the Howey Company and a service contract with Howey in the Hills. And the court found that the combination of those two contracts, the total scheme, the total transaction, the total economic reality, was constitutive of an investment contract. And so a scheme or a transaction does not mean the absence of any contract at all. It means, as it did in Howey, a multiplicity of contracts. In August, there were 6 law professors from law schools as preeminent as Yale who came to the following conclusion, quote, "No decision of the Supreme Court has ever found that a scheme that does not involve a contract could qualify as an investment contract." And so do you disagree with that statement? And if so, could you please cite a decision of the Supreme Court that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract?
The SEC has been in front of multiple courts, and investment contract has been...
What's the name of the case, Mr. Gensler? The Supreme Court case that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract. Do you have the name? Can you cite a case?
The SEC, over the decades, whether it's
Can you cite a
chinchillas,
case?
whether it's whiskey caskets, whether it's crypto, if the public is investing based upon the efforts of others...
I find it telling that you cannot cite a single case.
That's a security.
Not a single... How about a Second Circuit case? Can you cite a single Second Circuit case that found an investment contract in the absence of a contract?
I understand where you're trying to go, and I'm going to leave that to the very fine attorneys at the SEC in front of courts. But I'm saying the core principle
Mr. Gensler,
this is a field...
This is. Let me finish. This is a question to which you should know the answer, because the definition of an investment contract is the central issue. That's what determines the extent of your authority. That's what determines the applicability of federal securities law to crypto transactions. And your inability to answer that question is baffling to me.
I'm answering it consistent with what the Supreme Court has said, which is the law of the land is a 4-part test.
And yet you cannot cite a single case to support your argument.
Howey, it's called Reeves, it's called many cases at the Supreme Court, sir. 8 or 9 times it's been affirmed by the Supreme Court.
Can I ask, suppose I were to purchase a Pokemon card. Would doing so constitute a security transaction?
You could purchase a Pokemon card. I don't know what the context is, but if you're just purchasing a Pokemon card...
If I purchase a Pokemon card, is that a security
retail
transaction?
Store, that's not a security.
Okay. If I were to purchase a tokenized Pokemon card on a digital exchange via a blockchain, is that a security transaction?
I'd have to know more.
Okay. So for you, the process of tokenization is what transforms a non-security transaction into a security transaction?
Look, if the investing...
I thought you were technology neutral.
If the investing public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others and they're exchanging funds, that's the core...
I see my time has expired, so...
He got torched, and shout out Torres there for Mr. Torres there for grilling him. I mean, clearly he's doing his same tactics of just kind of saying the same thing over and over and kind of trying to skirt around or beat around the bush, and not really. He can't even answer a direct yes or no, man. And it's just shameful, man. This is supposed to be a representative that's supposed to be out looking for us, and that's how he's carried himself. It's crazy. Jason Foster from Empire Oversight says, when Thurgood Marshall said Congress painted with a broad brush, he was writing the law of the land. No, sir. Courts do not write laws. When a statute is vague and antiquated, After 80 plus years of interpretation and massive technological development, it is up to the people's elected representatives in Congress to update and clarify it, not unelected judges or regulators. Congress should do its job. 1. Investigate. 2. Hold regulators accountable for arbitrary enforcement decisions. 3. Settle the turf battles between regulators. 4. Legislate clear rules of the road. And 5. Provide certainty to markets within which they can do what they do so well. Innovate. I mean, shout out Jason Foster from Empire Oversight. I mean, that is hitting it on the head, man. We've been talking about, when's Congress actually, I mean, obviously they're kind of pushing, the agenda with these talks. And then, Chairman Gensler's not getting the questions and the provided answers beforehand. And things are kind of seeming like they're getting a little bit more intense, if you will, or the flames being turned up. But it's like, hey, you might as well just get it rolling. Do what you know you're supposed to do, especially now that we have this whole hashtag ETHgate and all the shady stuff with the SEC and all other government entities and members within that whole shady organization, right? All that stuff's coming out. You better take action, man. It's crazy. Digital Perspectives have put this up, and I want to cover this segment too with Tom Emmer here. Let's listen in.
Industry benefit more from regulatory uncertainty than everyday market participants or smaller institutions who don't have the scale or the capital to fund expensive compliance teams?
Large institutions could benefit from uncertainty.
Reclaiming my time. The answer is yes, sir. Mr. Gensler, you had an 18-year career at Goldman Sachs where you were partner and co-head of finance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And is it correct to say that you made most of your personal wealth directly through your employment at this bank, Goldman Sachs?
I've done well since then, too, sir.
I'll take that as a yes as well. You described the SEC under your leadership as the cop on the beat watching out for our constituents.
I got to cover this. I mean, that little smug look on his face, look at him. That infuriates me, and I know it infuriates a lot of you out there because, he has inside information, and obviously he's a part of the problem. And all these people have this coordinated effort to line their own pockets and push their own narrative and agenda, and they're trying to say F all of us, right? They dropped a lawsuit on the whole entire XRP community, and now they're dropping all these lawsuits on the rest of the crypto community, messing up, our investments and our ability to change the financial course of our lives. But that's the face that he makes. Man, I got some things that I want to say, but, this is YouTube.
Take that as a yes as well. You described the SEC under your leadership as the cop on the beat watching out for our constituents, correct?
I think that's a mandate that Congress
Yeah, and I
has
think
given
you've
us.
said that, reclaiming my time. The answer is yes, sir. If you could just comply with what I've asked, I'd appreciate it. But given your 18-year career at one of the biggest banks in the world and the personal financial fortune you amassed there, do you think it's possible for you to serve as an impartial regulator and not favor large financial intermediaries?
Absolutely, sir.
Well, Mr. Gensler, do you believe the vast majority of digital assets meet the investment contract test and are therefore securities operating illegally outside of the U.S. regulatory umbrella?
As I've said, many of these assets are basically the public is anticipating
Sir, is
profits
that a yes?
based on the efforts of others.
Is the answer then yes?
Again, without prejudging anyone, I do think that the significant
Reclaiming my
majority
time.
are
I'll take it as a
investment
yes.
contracts.
And to be clear, sir, this perspective has nothing to do with a concern you noted in a speech last year where you said, quote, "Over the past year, several bank executives have shared their concerns with me about the sheer number of depositors who have moved money from their bank accounts into crypto-related exchanges and wallets," end quote. Right?
The concern that those bank executives raised was that there's
Again, I'm
those
reclaiming my time,
customers were
sir.
getting
No,
hurt. in
I've
the
asked you to
market.
answer the questions as short as I can so I can use the time I have, and it's clear that you would like to avoid answering the questions, in my opinion. An Obama-appointed judge in the Southern District of New York, a bank-friendly jurisdiction where you bring most of your cases, recently found that decentralized financial technology, quote, not only removes the so-called middlemen from these transactions, but it also allows users to interact through a variety of methods in an easy and efficient manner, end quote. The court also said underwriters, like the ones at banks where you work, sir, are, quote, precisely the types of individual roles that decentralized exchanges were designed to eliminate, end quote. Mr. Gensler, can you assure this committee that your style of regulation by harassment towards digital asset innovation is to the benefit of every American and not driven by your desires to protect industry incumbents?
This is a field that's rife with fraud and manipulation, and I'm looking out for the American investors who've been hurt by the crypto.
Yeah. I'll reclaim
fraudsters
my
and
time. Mr.
scammers.
Gensler, despite your years of rhetoric, like today, I'm convinced you are not an impartial regulator. Instead, it's clear that you are working to consolidate your own power, even though it means crushing opportunities for everyday Americans and, frankly, the financial future of this country. Even the federal courts are highlighting the damage you, sir, are doing to our constituents, and they're telling you that you don't have the legal authority to accomplish your goal of squashing competition in the financial markets. Congress has been telling you that too. Now, Mr. Gensler, I believe our great financial system is the definition of freedom in this country. And congressional policies must provide room for the traditional financial system to evolve alongside the disruptive digital asset ecosystem. That said, it cannot be understated that a common theme throughout your career, sir, is your relentless loyalty to the largest financial institutions at the clear expense of innovation, competition, and everyday Americans. I yield back.
I suspect some large financial institutions would not agree with that.
There's no question, sir. I've yielded back my time.
I mean, put it to him, Tom. But yeah, clearly, Chairman Gensler has his tactic, and he's going to keep doing that. And obviously, we're not. I mean, look, I want to talk about this real quick. So even him delaying the I forgot what two spot Bitcoin ETF applications that he just delayed prior to this meeting to kind of cover himself, right? And there are people speculating that maybe he did it because, if they when and if they called him out on it, because I didn't listen to the entire meeting here or hearing, maybe he could be like, oh, it's already done type vibe. So he can never get, I guess he can't get pressed about it. That was kind of lost for words right there. But yeah, it's kind of shady, man. Like there was a few months until like the actual deadline was up, but nope, let me go ahead and delay it right now going into this meeting. It's crazy. This is crazy, man. Ashley Prosper coins a new term, regulation by harassment, which replaces regulation by enforcement. Says, quote, even the federal court are highlighting the damage that you, sir, are doing to our constituents. And they are telling you that you don't have the legal authority to accomplish your goal of squashing competition in the financial markets. Congress has been telling you that too. Quote, it cannot be understated that a common theme throughout your career, sir, is your relentless loyalty to the largest financial institutions at the clear expense of innovation, competition, and everyday Americans. Boom. Literally, he did a great job. I'll give it to him. We want more action. We don't want letters. We want more action. And then you have Maxine Waters here, Bitcom and crypto screams. JD says, what a joke. U.S. leadership has become a total embarrassment to the world. It's crazy. Right here, I thought this was interesting. Now, don't know the if this was edited in. I'm not sure, but this is interesting right here. Eleanor Terry says, someone sitting behind Gary Gensler flashes a stand with crypto NFT on a phone. The shield is described as a symbol of unity for crypto community seeking sensible crypto policy. So you see this little shield right here, which I'm not sure if that's it. I got to look through I want to see if someone actually puts up the video clip, but then like you have this right here, stand with crypto shield, and then you have the shield here. I don't know. Could be an edit. People are saying, oh, Eleanor Terry says, nice catch. They should better display the XRP logo. It says, I was sitting to the left of that guy, laugh out loud. So I wonder, maybe it is legit. That's interesting. Yeah. What does it say? It says stand with crypto. Shout out. Ugh, that's sick. Okay. Hopefully I see the video. I want to see it live. Or I guess not live in the video. She says, in regards to the government shutdown, Gary Gensler says that of just under the 5,000 employees that work at the SEC, 92 to 93% will be furloughed, and the HC will be down to the skeletal staff. Says, so if you're telling me that 5,000 employees at the SEC, the same SEC that had meetings with FTX, couldn't foresee this ways in which FTX was not about to protect investors and therefore maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, then I ask you, what is the point of them? Good job, E. I'm gonna go ahead and like that. Man, this is a trip, man. Responding to Eleanor Tarrant, JD says, the SEC is a 100 completely failed institution, hijacked by special interests, second only to Congress. The fact that we say, quote, in violation of the Securities Act of 1934 and 2023, 90 years later, is absolutely absurd. And those of you out there that say Gary Gensler and others are just doing their job and applying existing law are part of the problem, which, yeah, I agree. At this point, absolutely. If you know the law was created and enacted in 1934, long before the internet and before investors had real-time information available to them at their fingertips, yet you insist on applying the same disclosure concerns to the same degree necessary during the 1940s, while at the same time ignoring actual fraud being perpetrated on the public, you are, in fact, the problem. JD hits it on the head, man. And we're going to end it there. It's a long video. Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index sitting at a 44, and we're currently sitting at a $1.08 trillion market cap. Make sure you come to the Cryptos Key Conversation YouTube channel. Subscribe, follow us on x.com at CryptosKey1. Really appreciate your support out there. With all that being said, stay strong out there and be safe. And I need to edit that logo there. All right.